Hi, I'm Jules, and this is Lhasa. Welcome to Vegan Quirks, where we talk about veganism, minimalism, travel, being an expat in China, and so much more. Today, Bella and I are going to be talking to you guys about my trip to Tibet. Finally back with a travel video. So recently I went on a 10-day trip to Tibet, and today I'm going to be sharing the first 3 days of that trip where I was in Lhasa. If you don't know too much about Tibet, I do suggest doing some research, but I don't want to butcher too much of the information. Maybe I'll give you some tidbits along the way. But one thing you do need to know is that foreigners, like non-Chinese, can't go to Tibet without a tour guide. It's not legal. So I went on a group tour. This is not how I would normally travel. Like, this is not my optimal choice. But it's what I had to do for this trip, and it was totally worth it, and my tour guide was amazing, so I would recommend it even if you're not normally a tour travel guide. I'm sorry, Bella just really wants to play, so she's gonna be around. I promise in the next installment, or maybe the third installment if there end up being 3 of these videos, I will talk about oxygen and high altitude and what all of that was like. But I'll save that for when I'm talking about Everest. So the start of my journey was a 36-hour train ride from Chengdu to Lhasa, which was recommended to me by a friend to, number one, help with adjusting to the high altitude, since you get from low to high much more slowly than on a flight, and number two, to get to see some nice scenery. If I'm being honest, the scenery was quite beautiful, lots of mountains, but it was very brown because of the time of year, so maybe not as beautiful as it would be later. But I really spent a lot of the time just in the bunk, writing, reading, relaxing, eating lots of junk food, doing some stretches because I needed to accommodate for the fact that I was literally just sitting in that bunk for 36 hours and not doing a lot of moving about. I also had a little trouble sleeping and felt like quite a bit dehydrated, which is pretty normal at high altitude. It gets very, very dry, and if you get altitude sickness, you also tend to have trouble sleeping. So when I finally arrived in Lhasa, I just walked through the streets. We had a free day the first day, so I kind of got to see the shops, see what the city was like, relax, eat a little bit. I even went to get a blind massage, which was super relaxing and really nice. Post-massage bliss. Gonna go get some food. So normally, I do focus a lot on food on my trips. I'm a big foodie. I love to try out restaurants, and when I do travel videos, there's usually a lot of food, but quite frankly, Tibet isn't known for much food that's not made out of yak or yak milk, so obviously that wasn't really optimal for me. So day 2, we went to 2 monasteries, the Drepung Monastery and the Sera Monastery. You basically aren't allowed to take any pictures inside most of the monasteries, so a lot of what I have for you to see is beautiful mountain scenery and cool prayer wheels and some cute puppies and doggos. But honestly, the best part about the Sera Monastery was the monk debates. So they have this really interesting thing where in the courtyards, in the afternoon every day, the monks go out and debate, and because I was on a group tour, the tour kind of sets up the restaurants that you go to, so I didn't really have as much free choice as I normally do when finding what I was going to be eating, and all of it pretty much ended up being standard Chinese fare, not really anything special. All the vegetables were being were traveling from mainland anyway, because it's such high altitude that they can't really grow vegetables in Tibet. So I wasn't really eating much local Tibetan food. Yeah, so there's not too much to say about that. Like, it's like a 1v1 situation, but there's a bunch of them doing it at once, where one person sits down and kind of prompts the other person with philosophical questions, and then the person kind of has to start an argument about it. And so one person's sitting, one person's standing, and when the standing person like makes a good point, they like clap, and it's really interesting. Definitely just I don't understand anything about what the debates were about, like just that they were like general philosophical life kind of debates. But obviously I don't speak Tibetan, so I had no idea what they're actually saying, but I think it's super interesting to watch.
Gonna fall asleep.
So the third day, we went to Potala Palace, which is just right in Lhasa, and Drepung Temple. So this is our first beautiful look at the Potala Palace. There were also all of these like little pollen fuzzies from these certain types of trees that we saw like everywhere, and I just thought this looked super cool to see all of the, it looked like little fuzzies. And so we walked up like 1,000 steps to get to the top of this temple. And so Potala Palace was originally built in the 7th century, though most of the original towers were destroyed and rebuilt, I believe, or some of them at least. And it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which is super cool. But once we got to the top after a million steps, as you can see, we got to see like some really, really beautiful views of Lhasa, which was super awesome. And in some of these pics, I hope you can see that the tops of all of the buildings in Lhasa are like shimmering because there's the reflection from the solar panels. This was like such a cool fun fact that basically all of Lhasa is run by solar because there's just so much sun there.
But around here, all those rebuilt in the 17th century, similar to palace, you know. So that is a special room for the Dalai Lama.
One thing I really loved about the Drepung Temple is that you could film a lot of the beautiful architecture, which was a little bit harder to see in other places since we couldn't film inside the monasteries. You can see here the lovely, like super vibrant, colorful Tibetan style of the mandalas on the ceiling, and also just the painting of everything. Super bright and colorful. This is pretty normal of everything, and then also lots of gold. So stay tuned for the rest of my Tibet trip, which includes me going to Everest Base Camp and getting to see a really awesome view of the summit. I hope you guys enjoyed this travel video, so please come back for more. Thanks, bye!